Lynn Forsyth is on the line, and we're going to talk about her book, Crystal Cave Fairies and Dragonfly Adventures to Crete. How are you today, by the way?
I'm doing good, thanks. How was yourself? You okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing great, thank you. So, what inspired you to write this book, Crystal Cave Fairies and the Dragonfly Adventure to Crete?
Well, I've always loved writing. I never had the confidence really to be able to put my stuff out there, feared rejection and all that kind of stuff. But basically, I knew if I didn't do something about that, I would never really put anything out there. So after a while, I decided to do a BA honours degree in writing and in creative writing. I learned a lot of aspects from, about writing from that. And Crystal Cave Fairies was one of my assignments. So I got the idea for the story from a holiday that I went on with my parents when we were kids. And it kind of progressed from there, I used it for the assignment, and then I decided to elaborate on the assignment later, hoping to, turn it into a children's story. The dragonflies came into it, I just love dragonflies anyway.
Yeah. How did you come up with the idea for the different characters within the book?
The characters basically had to be from the cave that we visited. Because when we were there, the tour guide kind of leaned down to me and my sister and said, if you look carefully, you might see fairies hiding in the cave. So that stayed with me forever, So basically, the characters had to be the fairies, two little girls who went to visit the cave and their parents. The cave basically had to be the habitat of the cave, for the fairies. And then how I imagined the cave to look from the outside. And the inside, from the outside, it had to be, maybe a little bit scary, because walking down the side of a cave to get in there is going to be quite scary. And the inside basically had to be kind of enchanting and full of magic, As for the dragonflies, I decided to go with them, because they have 4 wings, a really strong insect. They fly really swiftly. So I thought, in the story, they would be perfect to be able to carry the fairies across land and sea, yeah.
Yeah. So can you share any interesting or memorable experiences you had while writing or researching for the book?
I suppose my most memorable moment was after I thought that my story was at a point where it was readable, to a reader. I asked my granddaughter, Lily, if she would like to read it. At that time, she was about 9 years old. Straight away, she said, yes, I'll read it. I made sure that she was okay with that, and she said, yeah, I really want to read it. So I gave her the manuscript to read from a computer. And after she read it for a little while, I went back to her and said, are you okay? Do you want to keep reading? She said, yes, I want to read all of it. So that was memorable because Lily gave me lots of inspiration, to think that I had written something that would actually capture a child's interest, and, not be able to put the story down. So, after that, my 2 youngest daughters, who at the time were in their 20s, they pushed me to get it off to a publisher. With it being my first actual story that I actually wanted to publish, that, the 3 of them gave me an awful lot of confidence to be able to do that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then while researching it, I learned quite a bit about Devon. I learned that there is crystal caves around the world. I found out things about the dragonfly that I didn't really know, and that, dragonflies have been around for a few million years, and I hadn't known that, so yeah, it was quite interesting writing the story and researching for it, yeah.
So what do you hope readers will take away from reading Crystal Cave Fairies and Dragonfly Adventure to Crete?
I would hope that any child or adult that might read the book, either for themselves or to the children, would be absorbed into, the magical world of the Crystal Cave, and the enchanting world of the fairies and dragonflies. I hope that they would love the whole journey, in the story, like it take them over land and sea, to Crete, where the baby dragonflies live. I hope that they enjoy every minute of reading it, and also, like, after reading it, any children that have read it might hope, to have a lot of questions and maybe do a little bit of research themselves.
Can you discuss the role of imagination and creativity in the book? And how do you think it can positively impact children?
Well, first I decided how the characters would look. I researched the meanings of each of the names and made sure, that they fit the characters and the storyline. And importantly, at that point, I knew, that how the setting was going to look. And then, I decided that the working fairies would make the utensils and pots and pans and things that they would use in the cave each day, and where they would be kept. That became the galley kitchen, which is chapter 3, I think. And then the dragonflies reveal in the story that they've been around for millions of years. So this might be a piece of history that children wouldn't know. The story emphasizes on how friends help each other. It shows courage, teamwork, trust, and love, where strong and weak can come together and work together as a unit. The story talks about how the fairies and dragonflies come up with a plan that's much needed for a trip, it's a courageous endeavour for them. And then, creative writing's a part of life for young and old. It's somewhere where we can all lose ourselves in another world for a little while. It's somewhere we can learn new meaning in life. Reading may help develop self-esteem, mindfulness, along with feelings of achievement, empowerment, and empathy. So my story shows all of these qualities through the actions of the characters. So I would hope, any child or person that might read the story, might experience these qualities, and hopefully, remember them or develop them. So I think that would, that's kind of what, that's a positive impact on children. The book is a happy story. It's got no violence in it.
No. And are there any plans for future books or stories featuring the characters from this book?
Yeah, I do have 2 more fairy and dragonfly stories to tell. But I don't want to give too much away at the minute. But I am very excited about finishing them. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you talk about the significance of the setting, which of course is Crete, in this book?
Mm-hmm. Well, the setting actually started off as Devon, which the story it is Devon, yeah. That's where we visited for that holiday. The cave is, somewhere in Devon. We did visit a cave, but I could never remember what the location of the cave was. But after a lot of research and thought, I just thought Devon Beach would be a perfect place for the story, yeah. And then the beach is where the fairies can gather all of the things in the story that they need each day. And also Devon is, it's a short distance across to France. Well, the story takes them across the English Channel, so it puts a little bit of reality into the story. It takes them across seas and countries towards Crete. So I wanted to include another country in the story to make it a little bit more interesting. Crete's a well-known island in Greece. Greece is magical in itself, with a lot of history and Greek mythology. And I also wanted to entwine a little bit of Greek mythology into the story. And Crete seemed a perfect fit, to be fair, yeah.
And what challenges did you face while writing this book? And how did you overcome them?
Finding enough time was a challenge in itself, yeah. So I had to manage my time to make sure I could fit all of my writing in each day. Then there was the minefield of publishers to trawl through. Then finding the courage to actually submit my manuscript was scary. But with a lot of encouragement from my daughters, I eventually submitted to 3 publishers, all of who, accept accepted to offer to publish my story. So that gave me like loads of confidence. And all the anguish of putting my story out there just fizzled away. But it was unavoidable though at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice for aspiring children's book authors looking to write their first book?
Yeah, read a lot of books yourself. It's a great way to see how the authors have laid out their stories and how the storylines flow. Join local writers' classes or groups might improve grammar, vocabulary. It might help express yourself and develop your creativity and build confidence. You always carry a pen and notepad, because you never know when you might have an idea or something might inspire you, make sure you can write it down, because a few minutes later you've probably forgotten what you were going to think about and write down. Basically, if you have a story idea, go with it, let your imagination run wild and write it all down.
How do you think reading books like Crystal Cave Fairies and Dragonfly Adventure to Crete can contribute to a child's overall development and love for reading?
I've written the story as an easy read for children. It doesn't have many pages. The paragraphs are short, in the hope that when a child's reading it, they might not get bored with it. I have kept the story short but dynamic and interesting as well, in the hope that, any child reading it will engage easily and want to read on to the end. I've also not put many pictures in there because I'd rather think that a child would be able to maybe use their own imagination when reading. Also, there's quite a lot of characters in there, which I hope would make the story interesting and stimulating to a child's mind, while being able to relate to the characters and be a part of their world for a short while. I'd like to think that the story will help children to want to look for and read other books that might grasp their attention and their interest. Basically, that's why I laid the book out the way I did.
And is there anything else that you'd like to share with readers about your book or your writing journey? Yeah,
it's a nostalgic children's story set in 1969. However, anyone who might read the story will find that it could be set in any year and any time, basically. Fairies have been around for thousands of years, and will be around probably for thousands more, There isn't any violence in the story, which makes it readable for any age. There's a couple of moments where you might think, oh no, I hope they make it. But other than that, it's a nostalgic children's fairy story with a happy ending. And basically for writers, my writing journey has been up and down. It's been unpredictable and then assertive as well. So, just remember, fiction is subjective to authors, and subjective to both reader and author, So basically, you can write anything you please that, might be interesting to readers. And, it's all you're doing. That's about it, really,
Well, this book is, of course, called Crystal Cave Fairies and Dragonfly Adventure to Crete. Where are we able to find it?
It's on lots of platforms around the world. If you're thinking about looking for it in England, you would find it in Waterstones, on Amazon Books. If you were looking for it in America, you would find it on Barnes and Nobles. And then some of the other platforms, some of them are in the Far East, it's everywhere at the moment, So if you Google Lynn Forsyth or Lynn Catherine Forsyth or Crystal Cave Fairies Adventure to Crete, it will pop up on any Google platform, telephone, or anything like that.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for joining us today. It's been great to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, Toby. You have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.